Might just augment that a little bit. And a little bit, not quite as dark, a lighter value, so a little more water. We'll just I just feel this area over here is a little bit weak. Could use a little bit more stuff. Maybe a little bit. And in here, I'll just take a really light value just to try and emphasize that white tree in there. Same over here. I'm just going to take some paper here and just sort of block off the parts that I've already done. And also sort of down here, because what I want to do is that half, where I pull this thing half throttle, instead of a steady stream, it just kind of gives me blobs. The reason I'm doing this is I want to keep these, this sort of grass area in front separate. So I've wet it, the rest is safe, and I'm going to do some now the one thing I just want to make sure of, I want to keep this one in the foreground there separate. Need a little more yellow. Now I don't want this to run into there. Just to start off, I'm going to add some more water. And I want to get a bit more paint on here. And the reason for doing this is that the paint will mix by itself with just the water in a lot more attractive way than I can do it with a brush. So I put some paint down, especially I got my little spray bottle here. Let that little hit it with a little water. And I'm not as worried now that this top gets wet, because if I don't mess around with it, it should just dry and it won't lift the paint. Down here I want this to mess around. And this one over here, in here I want this to be, let's get this here, a little bit more, it's off towards the edge of the paper. So I'll just put that there. Things like what are happening here where the paint is running will give me a very, can give me a very nice effect. Okay. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to move over to this other side. And I'm just going to blot this off. One thing I want it to be lightest right at this edge. I'm going to let this one flow a little bit. Just want this other side here to be more to the yellow, because it's, the idea is that it's catching more of the light. From this light coming through the trees. I think that bright red there is going to be too much. I'll take some of that away. Okay, I've let that dry. Now I want to do this one that's in front, and I want it to kind of stand out from the ones behind. It's a nice element to break up the shoreline. So I'm going to start with it to the red side, or to the red on that side. To the yellow orange in the middle. And to the yellow on this side, which again is catching the light. What I'm now going to add in is the water and the reflections. And this, I want this element here to be separate, separate from the rest of the water. So I'm going to leave that and wet the rest of the water. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do this again in two sections. The first one is going to just mimic the underpainting up there. So I'll start with the cad yellow medium down the middle. Then switch to my CAD Red Light. Then a little quinacridone rose. And over here we'll go with a little bit, punch up this a little bit. Add a touch. Okay. I now want to add some of these darker values. Stuck in there. Okay, and then I want to come in lastly and some of the dark accents in there to really make this stand out. Yeah. And then we want a few that are going to be very dark. I find it's a really good idea to use the largest brush that you can for any one section. And since I'm doing quite big shapes, this large number 30 round is really good for those. Now the only thing I wasn't really thinking, this one here is very dark and it's off to the side. So it's going to leave the eye out of the picture, so that one has to go. I want this reflection of this little clump to be separate. So I think if I'm careful not to touch the sides there, I should be okay. Bit of And what I'm going to do, just because now I got two white straight lines around there which are going to draw too much attention, I'm going to actually touch it to the edge. And there'll be a little bit of blending, but it should be okay. I just want to add a few dark accents and modify things a little bit, and then I think I'm going to be finished. The first thing is I want to get a real dark mixture. to the red side. And then just add a little water to make it a lighter value for this one. Just soften this here. So I've looked at it and I'm quite enjoying it. It certainly has an organic nature to it. Just a couple of things. One, this reflection is as light as this, so there's a competition, and this is the one, because it's picking up that light, that I want to be the lightest. So this one needs to be toned down. So if I just go over it, it still stands out in contrast to this, but now it's not competing as much with that one over there. That's it. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave it. Like I said, I love this water type stuff that's happening there, the reflections. A nice mood, definitely a nice feel to this, and as I mentioned, the sort of organic nature, because a lot of it was not done with the brush. It was done with just letting the water do its thing. So it has a nice feel to it, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you're motivated to try some of these, more experimental ways of using watercolor.